I'm Mike Moran. I'm out of Taylor, Michigan. I own Moran Motorsports and Moran Racing Engines. I purchased this machine about 2 years ago, and I did it to actually help consistency in the hone finish and with production. This is the only machine I've seen on the market that you could actually take, and once all the parameters are set, you could walk away from it. It could run for an hour while I'm doing other jobs, and that was very beneficial to our business here. The biggest thing that I saw was I thought I was a good honer. I've been honing for like 30 years with manual machines. Once I started using this and using it in the correct manner, I actually was very humbled by the procedure and the finish. I used to be able to hold stuff within 2-3 tenths. Since using this machine, I've noticed that it can get within 1/10, and it can do all that with me doing other jobs in the shop, which was very important. I also had procedures that I would do to get the hone finish just right, but from block to block or sleeve to sleeve, there was always the little idiosyncrasies that were not the same. I'd have a plus or minus 5 to 10 on the RA. Since using this machine, it could do all 8 cylinders in about an hour, and I could come back and they're like within 2 on a RA. That's ridiculous. I can't keep that as a manual machinist or a honing procedure. I just can't keep those type of tolerances. This machine does it with no sweat. All right, all I gotta do is hit start. Should run through its paces. I also like the fact that I can call you guys and I can tell you some stuff that would benefit not just me, but other people in the industry. And then it was amazing. Just all of a sudden, new cradle shows up with everything that I'd spec'd out that needs to change on the next machine. They built the cradle and shipped it. Didn't even say nothing. It just showed up. I'm like, you could tell they care. You know, that's really nice. I try and tell all these guys that, you know, work for me that, you know, I don't want somebody who just throws a part on. I want somebody that notices something that could change for the better. And then our customer base that we have, they don't mind that. They just need to know what they're getting, you know. So it's all about improving, you know, their performance and not just throwing parts at it. You don't want to be a parts cannon and just fire parts at it. So, you know, that's a big thing. We do just exclusively, we do these engines for customer Joe Welch of ours. He does factory stock showdown, and we keep 5 of these maintained for him. So at any given time, he'll go out and test or make 40 laps, whichever comes first, and then he'll bring it back for freshen up. So we always have 1 on the dyno for R&D constantly, no matter what, and then we have, you know, 4 of them that are in rotation in his stable, right? So we make it a priority to keep his stuff, you know, running and tip top. So that's a commitment we made to the customer, and we're going to keep it. Everybody that I've talked to about this machine was geared into production. They want this much time and it's faster. I'm more geared up into perfection, right? And I don't care how long it takes. I would spend 4 hours on a block in a manual machine to get it to where I wanted it. Using this machine, you know, you don't have to be in a hurry, but yet it does it fast for you. It does everything I used to do in 4 hours in about an hour. But instead of plus or minus 5 RA, it's plus or minus 1 or 2. It's incredible what it can do. Like I said, it was a very humbling experience after seeing what it can do programmed correctly compared to my experience over years of honing manually. It's ridiculous how much better it is. After running this machine and getting, you know, a week or 2 under my belt with it, we run the same engine combination for a customer of ours at Factory Stock Showdown, and it makes within 5 horsepower every single time, as long as you don't change anything. After using this machine, we noticed about a 10 to 12 horsepower increase. And that was phenomenal, because normally you wouldn't notice something like that. But after doing it for like 3 years with a manual machine, then doing it with this, you notice 2 horsepower. Well, this thing was about 12. And it was just because we were able to control the RA and the finish correctly on every cylinder. The blow-by number went from, say, 12 to 14 CFM down to about 10 to 9, that was incredible in itself. From my experience with a manual machine, you can do a lot of things to manipulate the clutch and to try and dwell, manually lower the cradle, every trick in the book to try and chase taper out of a cylinder or a sleeve that's long and doesn't have much overstroke. Well, this one does a lot with a little. You can have as little as 100 thousandths overstroke on the bottom, which is nothing, and still the machine will actually chase it out. It's given the authority based off sensitivity set on the screen, and you can come up with a recipe that actually will chase out that taper with minimal removal on the stock. It was getting to the point where it was boring, right? So you run the thing and we run it to death, and it's just going to make the same thing, 1332 to 1335, and you're just like, it's so mundane. And then it was a nice, refreshing thing to see the hone finish. All of a sudden you put it in there like 1345, where'd that come from? You know, but it was directly correlated to the blow-by, and the blow-by is directly correlated to the hone, the finish. So it was a very refreshing, you know, pickup.
Hi, my name's Anthony Franco. I'm here at Larry's Auto Machine. Today we're standing in front of the H85 Diamond Hone. It's a vertical machine, and we call this in the shop, we call this the game changer. This is the one that changed it 10 years ago when we started diamond honing. We started out with the HP6. We had that for quite some time, and then we moved on to a more automatic machine. This machine is basically takes care of any questions whether you can duplicate a finish from time to time, whether it be a performance block or a stock over-the-road block. Through the years, we struggled with using stones and honing with a vitrified stone, and one of the things we ran into is every time you bought a set of stones, they would wear different, they would cut different. With the diamond technology and the machine that Rottler has come up with to alleviate all those problems, it makes everything so repeatable. The ring seal is second to none. You can put a motor on a dyno, see instant results from honing with a stone to diamonds. One of the things we like is the program is set up where you literally can catalog every engine combination there is out there, and you can repeat that finish, as I said earlier. One of the things that we really like about the diamond is accuracy, to make the same depth cut every time, and you can back that up with a profilometer, which we use here to check our cylinder bores for many of the different kinds of ring combinations that are out there, whether it's a hardened ring or a cast ring or a chrome faced ring. We can put the proper finish in the cylinder every time to get that ring seal. The other thing that the Rottler came up with was it's vertical, it's straight up and down. No more board geometry problems with a cantilever kind of setup honing. You don't get that arc in the cylinder wall. So measuring the cylinder walls with a profilometer, like I said, the ring finish is second to none. So one of the things we notice here with switching to the diamonds is the leak down on the motors, which is the amount of compression that is leaking past the rings during the cycle of the engine running. And we've seen as much as 3 to 5% better leak down, meaning a lower number, less of your combustion sneaking out of the combustion chamber and getting in your crankcase and causing blow-by issues. So that's what we want. We want a good engine seal. We want that ring to seal right up. With the diamond hone technology, it is second to none. You can't go wrong having your motor rebuilt and having it honed with diamonds. One of the other things that this machine is very, very versatile about is different design motors. You have a Subaru Boxer type motor or a Porsche Boxer type motor that the cylinders are horizontal. And then you have, your V8s that they're more vertical style. So with that, this machine is able to change the crosshatch angles so you can shed oil off the cylinders differently. a boxer motor takes totally different crosshatch design than, say, a vertical type motor or a 45-degree motor. And we like to be able to change that. We can also set this machine up and let it run, hone a cylinder, set the parameters, and know when I go back to that machine and check that cylinder, it's a 1/10 straight and round, top and bottom, and most of the time it's better than a 1/10. One of the big things we notice when we switch to the diamond honing is just the bright and brilliant finish that you get. One of the things that diamond does when it cuts and doesn't curl the leftover material. And one of the things that helps along with our cleaning process is that diamond honing. Believe it or not, the diamond honing helps the cleaning process. It sounds a little funny, but when you cut with a stone, it leaves a hook, traps the material from the honing process. The diamond doesn't do that. It's such a clean, straight cut when it cuts that it releases any fragments that are left over from honing. You have a cleaner bore, you have a happier ring when you put it together, and that's all back to ring seal. This is Rottler's setup screen for each individual manufacturer or design that goes in the machine. And here we have a big block Chevrolet. We have, our clearances for our machine. We have our cylinder set up as far as how much, what size we are, what crosshatch angle, our roughing speed, our finishing speed, how much load we're going to put on the cylinder to create that crosshatch depth, and then obviously would be the length of our cylinder so the machine doesn't crash. In the operation screen here, it has this cool feature which is crash protection, which will actually, before it runs a cycle, it'll run the length of the cylinder and detect whether it's going to have any problems hitting such a main web maybe, or if there's a piece of flashing sticking out or something like that, it'll detect it and it won't run the machine until you correct the problem. So from that we can just simply set up our stock removal and our taper accommodation, and we can run the machine. So as I said before, we can check the crosshatch angle due to what's set there, and we have this, they provide you with a nice tool here, and you can actually see it on the screen. I'll get back in focus. It's a little bit better, and you can see how nicely the angle is and how consistent it is from top to bottom. It's one of the things the vertical hone is able to do, is go from top to bottom without any of that washout from the heads, the honing head turning and going back down. We had this set at 45 degrees, and you can see that it's within 3 to 4/10 of a degree, all in different areas of the bore. Here it's showing 45.4, 45.3, and that's from the top of the bore to the bottom of the bore.
So as we do as many dart and sleeve engines as we do, we had a hard time with surface finish on our older machine. We had an old Sun SV10 that was a good machine, but we had a real hard time keeping up with surface finish and repeatability on that machine as far as that sleeve goes. That sleeve's hard. It's hard to hone. It's hard to keep a pattern on it. It was really hard to keep our RVK and RK numbers where we wanted on it. So I spoke to Rottler at one of the PRI shows a few years ago and kind of was really intrigued on their processes and their stones that they're using as far as their tooling goes. So talked to a few guys, talked to a few shops that had it on there, and was really intrigued about it. So we pulled the trigger 2 years ago and we bought the machine. So there's more than one feature just besides the tooling that we liked about the H85, and it's automated features. Now, being a machine shop owner, having something automated where the machine can run itself and you can do other things in the meantime to bring up the productivity level in the shop is definitely a bonus no matter what. So while we were looking at that machine, we noticed that it had two features that made it automated. One was the hold a hole, and one was it could roll over by itself. When you got something going on, you're working on another piece, or we're working on the F69 or something's going on, we needed the capability of it to run itself. Not only that, it goes from hole to hole, but it contains the accuracy that we need in doing that. It's just an incredible machine that we love. That feature is basically, it just saves us a lot of man hours. Now, another thing over the SV10 compared to this machine is on the SV10, I was lucky if I could do 2 blocks, 2 dart and sleeve blocks a day, which in a machine shop, that's not very productive. This machine here, I could do 4 to 6 blocks in one day and it not even break a sweat. So that was definitely a bonus feature for us, is the productivity level having this machine in the shop went from 2 to 4 to 6, and that's just amazing. So when I was speaking to the Rottler reps on this machine, they had numerous amounts of tooling options that were really not for us, and to get our RK and RPK numbers where we needed them to be, until they told me about the CBN finish. Now, I heard about the CBN finish when we had this on and was kind of skeptical about it, and only a lot of race shops were using it. But between talking to Total Seal and talking to the guys at Rottler, we were able to bring in that technology onto our street engines, where our RK numbers and our RPK numbers are repeatable every single time. So having that surface finish is what makes these power levels attainable, and these guys drive these things on the street. So just imagine having a 1,500 horsepower car you drive on the street and the rings lasting for almost 100,000 miles. Not only is tooling the most important factor on choosing one of these machines, is also making that cylinder round. The concentricity of the cylinder and everything else has to be round. So this machine here, we chose to go with a 6-stone hone head on it to make sure that we're getting these cylinders round. Now the aluminum blocks, they grow, they move. No matter what we do, even though we have a dart sleeve in there, they're still going to move around. This particular machine here keeps that tolerances right between 1 to 2/10 of out of roundness, which is amazing, especially on aluminum block. With the Sun machine, we were lucky to get 1/2 to 6/10 sometimes on some of these things. So not only does it get a cylinder round, it actually has some features in there that actually make this machine like anything else on the market. It has a dwell feature where actually we can set the dwell either by percentage or by a short stroke feature. The short stroke feature is nice because the aluminum blocks really get tight on the bottom, because we're creating a lot of heat when we're honing that thing. The dart sleeve is very hard. We're using a very coarse abrasive on our rough finish, and it just wants to distort that bottom of the cylinder. By setting our short stroke, we can tell it, hey, that last inch of the bore, we want you to short stroke that more than we do on the top side of it. So that makes that cylinder nice and round and nice and concentric all the way around. That feature has been one of the features that really have made this machine pretty much pay for itself over time. It just makes everything seal 100 times better than it ever has before. So with anything, it's all about user friendliness and interface. You know, most of the guys who go to the PRI show or any kind of show, when you're trying to show them a machine, they look at the screen and go, oh my God, what is all that garbage? But this particular machine is so easy to use that it basically you can pretty much learn this machine in a day. You know, having a Rottler rep here who really knows how to use the machine and show you, you're going to learn in a day. Now, if you already have an F69 or any other compatible machine with this software, you can basically start it up and use it yourself. That's what we did here, because the F69 pretty much shares the same software. And basically, it's an easy setup. You're just going to go to your settings. You're going to tell your rollover clearance, your block clearance, so when it moves, and then your cylinder diameter, and you want to tell it what angle you want for crosshatch angle, and then you tell it what RPM you want to do it, and it's going to go ahead and calculate all the stroke, overstroke, and everything by itself. So that right there is awesome. So if we want to change the angle of something, it's just as easy as changing the angle from 40 to 42, from 42 to 38. We change the bore size, easy as going from 4125 to 4140. Boom, and it's done. Now the best thing is that this thing here, all your block features are all taken care of. So once you set it and get your bore spacing set, you get all your stroke length set and everything else, it's basically you bolt that block in, set your zero, and you're ready to go. And setting your zero is easy as just taking that hone head, line it up over the number one cylinder that you want to call number one, setting up, get it centered, and you go. So time has been decreased, and we all know that time is money in the machine shop. So having this machine pretty much run itself, and the setup time and everything else just makes production go a lot faster. What sets the H85 apart is the tooling, like I said. And we love how Rottler's tooling enables you to you can use the same set of holders but change the stones. So you don't have to buy an excessive amount of stones at one point in time. It's just how you prefer and how you want to do it. Now, we here at MPR, we've been using the machine for quite some time, and it was a learning curve for us to get the specs that we needed to get on the cylinder by going through as many stones as we did. So we bought more stone holders in order to keep it so our process goes a little bit faster. So we have our roughing stones. That took us a while with the dart and sleeves. The Rottler reps actually probably wanted to strangle me on all the issues that we've had as far as the dart and sleeves being so hard and to cut that initial RVK number that we need to get to maintain it so our finished RVKs and our RK numbers are where we need to have. So that took a little bit of time, and it took a little bit of testing on our part as far as customers' cars and our own cars in order to make sure that we had that proper surface finish. Now, surface finishes have come a long way from where they were years ago. The years of Moly rings are long gone. So now it's tool steel, M2s, Napiers, higher tension oil rings, everything, lower ring packs and everything. So the RK and the RVK numbers have gone from lower numbers to higher numbers because we have to have the oil hold in the cylinder and not in the ring like we did years ago. So it does take a little bit of time and effort to find out what particular engine needs in order to kind of maintain that particular oil retention rate on that cylinder wall. Now, we here at MPR, like I said before, we do a lot of the Coyote motors. So these guys are making 1,500 horsepower in a street car. Now, try to get oil to hold on a 1,500 horsepower street car and then introduced 30 pounds of boost to it. So our RK numbers and our RVK numbers had to go up quite a bit. And it's something that we had to do with some custom stones that we got with Rottler in order to make and everything else. But their stones are second to none. Just calling the tech department alone, they get you the right stone and they work with you. It's not like, well, that's what we have and that's it. If you're trying to hit a certain number, they're going to work with you until you get that certain number, and they're going to work with you until you hit that number consistently.
What a day, what a day, what a day. Yeah, my brain is swollen. I've learned so much today. They told us, don't start cars. We are not going to listen.